Hey folks, welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. Today we have the story of a man who finds out his wife has been having an affair with her boss. Let's see how it goes. Story 1. I've been married for 2 years with my beautiful, loving wife. And the life we've been building together seemed perfect. But something happened and it all came crashing down. And I feel paralyzed. We technically met at work back in 2020 when the pandemic was in full swing. Our company sells kitchen appliances, I do administration, while my wife works sales. And at the time, everything was done remotely. We were both bored during a Zoom meeting and started messaging each other, and suddenly it started feeling like those meetups went by in minutes instead of feeling like hours. We kept talking to each other virtually throughout the rest of the pandemic, and were counting the days until we could see each other face to face. When we finally did meet each other, it was electric, like we were seeing an old friend and a new, exciting person at the same time. And it was only a matter of weeks until we got hitched. Flash forward to the present day, and we've been happy together. We have an adorable 8-month-old boy named Luke, after my favorite Skywalker. And while she's back at the office, I still work at home so I can take care of him. Again, everything seemed like it was perfect, until I found out that I wasn't the only person she met at work. Lately, our boss has been giving her lots of overtime, and while I was starting to miss her, it was good to have some extra money for diapers and such. We have one car between us, and I still have to run errands for our baby. So usually, I drive her to work and pick her up when it's time to come home. One late night, I went to pick her up, and for some reason it took her longer than usual to clock out. She wasn't supposed to be working at 10, but the clock read 10:15 and she wasn't answering my text asking when she was going to be done. 5 more minutes passed by, and I decided to go into the office to check on her. I took the elevator to her floor and looked around, but I didn't see anyone. After a little more searching, I did see something. 2 naked silhouettes getting up from the floor in the manager's office behind the tinted glass windows, kissing. I was stunned and could barely comprehend what I was seeing. Both of those figures looked familiar. The man had a resemblance to my boss, although I've only spoken to him a few times in person. The woman, however, was unmistakably my wife. I didn't want to believe that it was her, but it had to. Who else could it be? I ran down the stairs and back to the car before either of them could see me and tried to calm myself down. I'm not sure how much longer after that went down that my wife got to the car, since I was pretty much staring into space. But after a while, I heard her knocking on the window trying to get me to unlock the door. "Everything all right?" she asked me, as if she wasn't busy cheating on me with our boss. "Yeah," I told her, "was listening to this song and I was just getting lost in the music. How was work?" "Oh, the same old. It's like this every night," she said. "I sure as hell hope it isn't." She then looked at the radio. "I love you. I'm going to blow up your school. That's a weird name for our song." "These guys always give their songs names like that," I said to her. "Means you never forget what it's called." For the rest of the ride home, we kept talking about music, showing each other new songs and playing the ones we've both heard a million times before. In that moment, it's like I forgot what I just saw, and everything was still normal. However, I know what I saw that night, and as much as I wish it wasn't true, I know for certain that my wife was cheating on me. She broke our vows and went behind my back, and as much as I still love her, I simply can't forgive that. I still haven't figured out how I want to address the situation and would appreciate any advice. Update. After thinking it over, I decided I want to get a divorce. It hurts too much to consider the possibility, but if I don't take care of this now, the situation is only going to get messier. If it's discovered that she's been having sex with the manager, then she'll be out of a job. Relations with coworkers have never been a problem. But when a superior is involved, it's always been HR's policy to terminate both parties. It's going to happen eventually, so I would rather rip the band-aid off now and make sure that my son and I aren't hurt even more by prolonging the situation. She said this happens every night, so I let it happen again and got some evidence this time. I went to pick her up after some late overtime again, but this time instead of waiting for her, I showed up early and went straight into the building. The office was empty again, and now there was definitely no mistaking what I saw. They were definitely in the middle of the act. Holding back tears, I tried to get as clear a picture I could of their silhouettes. Because of the glass, it was blurry, but you could still make out that it was them. Armed with evidence of their infidelity, I filed for divorce and informed our HR department of my wife's affair. The next day, after I got back from the lawyers, I got a text from my wife asking me to pick her up early. I knew what it meant right away. On the way home, there was a clear tension, and all she said was that she didn't want to talk about it. At our place, however, I kept insisting that she had to tell me what's wrong, and eventually she had no choice but to tell me. She said that she got fired for sexual harassment, inappropriate relations. Of course, I already knew this, and I told her exactly that. She looked at me with the same 1,000-yard stare that I was making in the car that night, and asked me if I was the person she saw in the office back then. Didn't realize that incident was bothering her too, but if there's a silver lining, at least we finally got to clear the air. I then showed her the divorce papers, asking her to sign. She started crying, and with teardrops dropping onto the pages, she left her signature and initials everywhere she had to. Last update. I promised you that I'll keep you posted, so here's how it went down. Luckily, we were able to reach a settlement, so a divorce trial wasn't necessary. The one thing I wanted was custody over Luke. I've been taking care of him and was hoping to keep it that way instead of just seeing him on weekends. Luckily, our lawyers seemed to be somewhat eye-to-eye with me on that one. Because I was the stay-at-home parent, had a consistent source of income, and now my ex-wife was considered to be at fault in this case. We agreed on a 70-30 split in my favor. However, they were less generous with my assets. My ex-wife was considered the breadwinner, and as a matter of fact was earning more than I do at the company due to her position, being there for a longer amount of time and working in person. As a result, many of my possessions went to her, including the car. But I'm pretty sure her selling off my figurine collection was entirely due to spite. Although she did have to pay me 20% of her in child support, and find a new job to cover it. I heard that because of the reason she got fired and a less than stellar reference, it's been hard to find another sales job. So now she's working as a shift manager at Burger King, which would explain why the checks have only been adding up to about $600 a month. In the end, this isn't exactly the future that I was imagining for me and my ex-wife, and from time to time, I wonder if we'd be happier if this whole thing never came to light. But I realize that's not quite right. We might have been happier, but that would mean our marriage is built on a lie, and we're better off facing this harsh reality. After it's all said and done, I still have my son, and I should be working on his future instead of facing backwards at my adulterous ex-wife. Thank you all for your support and advice. This would have turned out so much worse if it weren't for all of your help. I'm sorry your marriage ended this way, OP. Your ex-wife did this to your marriage, and I'm glad she's getting the consequences of her actions. She broke her vows and risked the life you both were building over pleasure. She picked that little moment of pleasure over her son and you. I don't know how you can ever get over that. I'm glad you didn't try to reconcile. She wasn't planning on telling you, ever. If you hadn't found out, she would have continued to have sex with him for however long she could. I hope you're able to put this not-so-great past behind you. I hope you've healed from the heartbreak she caused you. You still have a future too, OP. Work on that, and work on Luke's future as well. Story 2. My wife, 26, and I, 26, have been dating since we were 18 years old. We met in our senior year of high school, lasted through college at different schools, and got married 3 years ago right after we graduated. We both come from Christian families, hers much more strict than mine. She's not a super strict person, but when it comes to cheating or me looking at other girls or watching porn, etc., she's always been 100% repulsed. When we were engaged, she threatened to leave me at one point and held a grudge for a long time after she found software porn history on my computer. Last year, we moved across the country to a younger, more hip city. She started a job and so did I. Up until spring of this year, I had been so happy with our relationship. We had a nice place in a new city, did lots of fun things together, bought a puppy, overall just living a good life. I had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. In March, she had a spring break from work and decided to go to Las Vegas for 4 days with one of her girlfriends from college, who is super uber Christian. I was not concerned about this at all, as I trusted every ounce of my wife and knew that her friend wouldn't be into too much craziness anyway. After she got back from Las Vegas, I felt like something was off. She began listening to different music, she made friends with different girls at the place she worked, people that I thought weren't very good influences. She was a bit more distant from me. My parents came to visit and she wasn't her typical sweetheart self to them. About a month after her Vegas trip, I had to travel for 2 weeks for work. Over this time, she attended a Kentucky Derby party with her new friends from work. I don't have anything wrong with her drinking with friends, partying, etc. Like I said, I trusted her. She was always one to flash her ring at guys when with her friends to tell them to buzz off. That night, she got particularly drunk and ended up staying at one of her friends' houses downtown. She never responded to my texts or calls and I was worried sick. I knew she was drunk that day and didn't make it home. She didn't get in contact with me until the morning, when I was just on my way to Phoenix Airport to catch a flight home. She said she just got too drunk and stayed at a friend's house, no big deal. When I got home from that trip, I could immediately tell something was off. She said she was having second thoughts about us and that she had lost a bit of our connection. She said she had met a British guy in Las Vegas, but nothing happened. She talked to him a bit over the internet, but stopped after a few weeks. That next weekend, we decided to take a small trip to reconnect. On that trip, she had too much alcohol one evening and told me some things she probably shouldn't have. It made me suspect that I didn't have the whole story. I discovered on the trip that she was still using WhatsApp to talk to this guy. She said she was just confiding in him for relationship advice. She told me she would stop communicating with him and deleted the app. The day we got back, I monitored her phone. Within an hour of being home, she was talking to him over Facebook Messenger. It was overtly sexual in nature, and she told him she felt grounded by me and that I was acting like her parent for making her delete the app. This sparked a rage and got her to admit everything about her relationship with him. She had been sending him non-nude Snapchats, or so she claims, in her lingerie. She was attracted to him, felt a connection, and things got sexual over time. She still denied anything happened in Vegas, which I 90% still believe to this day. A week or two later, by sheer coincidence and luck, I found out that there was another guy. This guy wasn't in Britain though, he was in our home city. After some digging, I found out that she got drunk on Kentucky Derby night and spent the night at his house. You can fill in the gaps. I went through all the stages that you would expect for someone that was cheated on this hard. After seeing how much she hurt me, she immediately retreated and started feeling tons of guilt and shame. She never came clean though until I had her backed into a corner and told her I knew. She said she was afraid it would end things between us and didn't know how to tell me. That was 3.5 months ago. We've had a small bit of counseling, a lot of ups and downs, and a good bit of fighting. I truly believe that she's past that phase. She says it was a bad time in her life. She made a bad decision when drunk with guy number 2 and was just swooned by guy number 1, who was very attractive for what it's worth. She has convinced me, I truly believe this, that she is past it, loves me with all her heart, and would do anything to fix things with me. She's trying very, very hard today, but it just doesn't ever feel satisfactory after what happened. I internally criticize so many things she does and constantly wonder what else is out there for me with someone who would understand and respect me better. I still love my wife, but it's not the same as it once was. We were both madly in love with each other for a long time. Things were so pure between us. We were each other's first and only sexually up until the affair. I don't feel like I've wasted 8 years of my life with her, there's no regret, but I do feel like I devoted 8 years to her when I could have probably enjoyed my young life in different ways. I'm so afraid that I'll waste even more waning years of my young life trying to make something work that's destined to fail again. Not the AOP. The you she wants back is gone. He got killed by a girl who screwed some guy while her husband was out of town. And the her you love is gone too. She went on a trip to Vegas and got killed by a woman who started an emotional affair with a British guy. You can stay with her, you can work on things, and I hope you're right. And she's faithful from here on. And the pain becomes just a very distant ache that only flares up once in a while. But the happiness you had is gone. There may be new happiness that can replace it, but that's statistically unlikely. And the new happiness will always be like big candy from a foreign country. Sweet, tasty, but not quite what you wanted. Ultimately, I wish you good luck. Hopefully you can salvage this.